All right, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, the draft, the undrafted free agent cycle is behind us. It's clear the Steelers went out and made a lot of really solid moves, and we've covered them. But one rookie in particular, especially a guy at the most important position, has already impressed the Steelers coaching staff. I think everyone is starting to align with the fact that Pittsburgh Steelers have pulled off a special potential steal. It's early, but it's a good sign for Pittsburgh. We'll get into that report in just 1 second. But first, I'm Nick, that is Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, when the Steelers selected quarterback Will Howard out of Ohio State, Kansas State prior to that, a lot of people viewed that as a great fit, good move. And us in particular, we really liked the move, and we broke it down in one of our videos shortly after the Steelers made that selection. But now more reports are starting to come out. And folks, I tell you what, Steelers fans, you may really, truly, honestly have something special here. Let's get into our first article here. And then we got more reporting on the other side. A lot of good coverage here. So this first one is from Steelers Wire. Despite being drafted in the sixth round of the 2025 NFL Draft, national champion and new Steelers quarterback Will Howard is turning heads for all the right reasons, and it's centered around his impressive work ethic. According to Devin Jackson of the Philadelphia Inquirer, just one day after being drafted, Howard reached out to the Steelers. He reached out, called the Steelers, and said he wanted to get a jump start on learning the playbook. On Sunday, Howard reached out to Steelers quarterback coach Tom Arthur for plays, according to his mother, much to the delight of the Steelers coaching staff. Maureen, Howard's mother, then explained to the Philadelphia Inquirer how impressed the Steelers were. Arthur wrote Will back and said, "Hey, we were going to give you the weekend off, but this is why we drafted you, because it's the kind of worker you are." All right, you're talking about a guy we talked about in our last video, chip on his shoulder mentality, something to prove, a feisty dude, hyper competitive. He gets drafted. Most of these kids, and you could see it, right? Gray Zabel, famously for Seattle, said, "Yeah, I'm going to take the weekend off and we're going to go pound a lot of Busch Lights," or whatever the heck he said, right? A lot of these kids, they get drafted. It's a moment of celebration. It's a moment of kicking back with your friends, family, and loved ones, and just appreciating the last 21, 22 years of your life. Will Howard, wired differently. He's hyper competitive. He's like, "I'm ready to get to work. I want to get to work now. I want to become the starting quarterback now. I want to earn that now." And that is special stuff, that kind of work ethic. But we've got another article here to really highlight that it's not just Howard's work ethic. His intangibles are phenomenal, but people forget he's got another aspect to him as well. Let's go into this report from Steelers Depot, and this is John Gruden providing some insights here. From the report, "I'll go on record here," Gruden said Monday on Sirius XM radio at the Senior Bowl Hall of Fame induction ceremony. "The Pittsburgh Steelers got a steal in Will Howard. That guy is a stud. I made the comparison to Josh Allen. Everyone said, 'Oh, Gruden thinks he's Josh Allen.' No, I said he's 6'4", 236 pounds. This is Will Howard now, 6'4", 236 pounds. Everyone's kind of making him out to be like a scrappy, feisty underdog. This dude is a big man. He's a big, strong dude." He said, "I want you to get a feel for how big this guy is. He can run the direct power plays. He can run the zone replays. He has 4 touchdown runs of over 70 yards. He won big at K-State. He won it all at Ohio State, and he can play in cold weather." I think this is one of the things about Will Howard that even I missed. If you look at how he plays stylistically, I know everyone's going to compare him to Ben Roethlisberger, Josh Allen, of course, Gruden threw around, but in terms of size, strength, and his ability to run the football, he's not too far removed from those guys. And when you factor in his killer intangibles, his work ethic, his hyper competitiveness, chip on his shoulder, I think it's pretty easy to see. I think if you look at just everything, the Steelers got a special guy here. And now look, everyone is focused on what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. When is he going to come to Pittsburgh? I think at this point, everyone's just assuming that he will, and he probably will in all likelihood. But I think when you're focusing long term, and maybe even short term, it's all said and done, who knows? I think the Pittsburgh Steelers actually have a really good chance of having their long term franchise quarterback here in Will Howard, because as more reports come out, day by day by day by day, it's more news, good news, hard worker, leader, great physical tool set. Everyone who knows football knows the quarterback position. Whatever you think of John Gruden, he knows the quarterback position. The only time Derek Carr has ever actually been treated as a good quarterback is when John Gruden was working with him. Gruden knows quarterbacks. He's saying he's a steal. There's a lot of momentum right now behind Will Howard, and Steelers fans, you guys should be excited by this exciting rookie prospect. All right, Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on all of this. But first, Steelers fans, in the comment section below, we're talking a lot about Will Howard, and for good reason, right? Obviously, a chance to be a big-time steal at the quarterback position. But what's another draft pick the Steelers made that you think was a really good move, right? A potential steal, great value, good fit, whatever it may be. Give us another Steelers draft pick that you personally really liked. Put them in the comment section below. But Miles, over to you now. Give us your thoughts on this latest update involving the Steelers.
Yeah, Nick, I think the more you hear about Will Howard, the more you got to love him as a Pittsburgh fan or as a fan of football in general. You love these kind of stories. Like you said, so many guys go out, they celebrate, they do whatever draft weekend, just go out and cut loose, and deservedly so. Great accomplishment for them. I think it's really important. A great, milestone in life. Go celebrate it. I think that's fine. But the great people, the great quarterbacks, do like what Will Howard does. They say, let's get to work. Let's get down to business right now. And I think that's why Gruden loves him. I think that's why the team loved him. And he's proving everybody right in his actions. He's doing exactly what they thought he would do. This is a guy slid all the way to the 6th round. And I think, like you said, that chip on his shoulder, it's the great mentality to have. And I think Will Howard, he's going to be a good quarterback for this Steelers team. I think eventually he will. If it's not this year, I think next year he has the potential to be the starter for this Steelers team. But I think there's some other things to note. And I think just right off, let's say, and all signs are pointing, if Aaron Rodgers signs somewhere, it's most likely going to be in Pittsburgh. If he does, I still think that Will Howard has some great things that he can offer to this team right away that Aaron Rodgers is not going to be able to do. Aaron Rodgers is not a young spry chicken anymore. This guy is getting up there. He's not going to want to run the zone reads. He's not going to want to run the power football, QB sneaks. This is a guy getting up there. You don't want to risk injury. Will Howard is built perfectly for that kind of stuff, being a power runner, like John Gruden said, bringing that to the table. And his best years in football were at Kansas State when he's running the ball. Average, over those 4 years, he had 3 seasons, 5.6 yards per carry, 6.6 yards per carry, 5.8 yards a carry. And these are on like 70 plus carries as well. So it's not like just a very short amount. This guy can do a lot of big things. Like Gruden said, he had 3+ runs of over 70 yards. He had a run of over 80 yards. This is a guy that can bring a lot to the table as far as what he does as a runner when you put him back there. Aaron Rodgers back there, probably not going to think too much about him scrambling anymore, ripping off big runs, striking fear into heart of defenses as a runner. But when you have and I don't like bringing this up because it probably leave a little bit of a bad taste in Steelers fans' mouths, but this is like Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, but I think much better combo. I'd much rather have Aaron Rodgers, Will Howard than Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. But when you had Fields on that roster, his running ability, he brought a dynamic. Everybody, you couldn't just game plan, okay, Russell Wilson's going to be out there. It's going to be statuesque in the pocket. Maybe has a little wiggle, a little shake to him, but he's not going to really be, a dynamic runner. But they also got Justin Fields on this team, and he's able to move with his legs and get a lot done. One of the better rushing quarterbacks in football right now. So I think this brings that aspect to the table. Will Howard could help this team do things early on, even if Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback for this team. So I think Will Howard brings a lot to the table. Whether it's right now and he somehow wins the starting job right now, Aaron Rodgers decides not to go to Pittsburgh, I think he's a very valuable player. But also, even if he does come, I still think he has a lot that he can bring to the table. And every time that Will Howard is on the field for the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's going to do his darndest to prove that he needs to stay out there. I would expect him to lay it all on the line and see big things every time he touches the field for the Steelers.
And you bring up a great point, right? Because even when Russell Wilson was given the starting quarterback job after he returned from injury, Arthur Smith did still have a lot of packages for Justin Fields, zone reads, kind of close games out, that kind of deal, certain different situations. So even if Aaron Rodgers becomes the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Howard would probably get a lot of touches every single game, the very, very similar dynamic the way Justin Fields did last year for Pittsburgh. So Howard's going to be involved one way, shape, or form. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of how much and can he develop into a long-term starting franchise quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And here's one thing I think is really important. When you talk about the quarterback position, and this is why I think drafting older, experienced quarterbacks, right? Brady was like this, was a great example. A lot of these guys, if they're juniors, 20, 21 years old, you talk about how Howard, hey, he didn't want to go out and celebrate. He was so focused. The guy's played 5 years of college football. Right? He's 23 or 20, close to 23. So he's an older rookie, especially when you look at some rookies today are 20, 21 years old. Look, if everyone's been there, if you compare yourself at 21 versus say 23, 24, not that you were a genius, I'll speak for myself here. I was still a total idiot at 23, 24, but I was a much much bigger idiot at 21 than I was a few years later. And I think that's what we're seeing from Will Howard. He's mature. He's a grown up. He transferred, of course, coming from Kansas State to Ohio State. He's been around the block, right? At this point, he's gotten out of all the craziness he wants to get out, his frat day kind of thing. That's behind him, right? I'm sure he did whatever he wanted to do. I don't know his personal life, and I don't need to know it. But I think based on his comments, he's ready to be a grown-up. He's ready to be a leader. And honestly, that's what I want at the quarterback position, especially for a rookie coming into a team, because it's very important when you go into any organization. The football locker room is a perfect example of this, but you can pick any organization. You go in there, you're supposed to become a leader or be a leader like a quarterback is. First impressions are every single thing. It is the most important thing. You got to go in there and set the tone. You got to go in there and be mature. You got to go in there and be a force that everyone can look up to or at least respect. And sometimes some of these young guys, no fault of their own, right? They're young, 20, 21-year quarterbacks, go into a locker room and their immaturity kind of shines and they just go off to a slow start. They don't get teams to build around them very well and they struggle, right? That's how a lot of bust happen. A lot of success happens in terms of late round picks. I look, of course, Dak Prescott, Tom Brady, right? Kirk Cousins. They were grown-ups. They were mature. They go into those locker rooms. People respect them at the NFL level. They get off to great starts and have great careers. Will Howard is following a very, very similar track as all of those guys. Again, he played a lot of football. He's been around the block. He is a grown-up. He is mentally ready to be the franchise quarterback right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers just by the factor of all the big-time football he played. I mean, for God's sakes, he just won a national champion for Ohio State, playing for a head coach that was this close to getting fired. He has felt the pressure. He has overcame it. He is a grown-up, and that's what we are seeing. And I tell you what, Steelers fans, I know a lot of you guys have been looking for your answer since Big Ben has retired, and rightly so. A lot of different guys have come and gone, and of course, we'll see what happens if Aaron Rodgers comes to Pittsburgh. But there is a really great chance you've got your long-term answer in here, Will Howard. I love a quarterback. He's got the great skill set, and I really love a guy who's got a good head on his shoulders, getting off to a great start in terms of leading the locker room with his work ethic. Will Howard, at this point, it's early. I get it. But he really seriously does, especially if you listen to John Gruden, look like a huge steal for Pittsburgh.